Philip, good afternoon to you, sir. Good to see you and good to hear from you, and very glad you're with us today. So let me just ask you a couple of questions, because I think the biggest thing on the docket is this coming Tuesday. We have a debate on paper between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, and this is in Philadelphia. Do we think this is going to take place, and have both of them backed off of some things that they were demanding in order for this debate to happen?
There was the normal debate about the debate before the two actually agreed to share a stage with one another. Earlier on, some of the controversy was over if the microphones would be muted when an opponent was speaking.
Much like it was back during the Biden debate.
Exactly. And that ironically ended up being something that was in Trump's favor. We know that he likes to interrupt. He's a bull in a china shop. Mm-hmm. But because he couldn't interrupt President Biden, the president's sort of diminished speed was on full display, and it ended up helping him. The ironic thing about that is that Biden is the one who pushed for that during negotiations, and it ended up backfiring on him. So fast forward to today, at the end of the summer,
right,
when you have the Harris campaign saying, wait a minute, we don't want those microphones to be muted. And there's been a whole back and forth and debate over the debate rules, but I think that is settled, and I think that from all indications that I see, the Vice President of the United States and the former president will share a stage for the first time in Philadelphia in what is absolutely a high-stakes prize fight moment in this election.
For both of them. I mean, it's high stakes for both of them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And just to sort of put this in perspective, Donald Trump defended a lead in the national polling from Joe Biden for 7 straight months. Biden never surpassed him a single time. And that's particularly interesting when you remember that in 2020, Trump never took the lead in polling ahead of that election, and then we had a photo finish. But, you know, he was clearly in the driver's seat against the current president for 7 straight months. Then Vice President Harris becomes the nominee for Democrats, and in a matter of, less than a month, I think if you actually look at the polling in about, 2 weeks to the day that Biden announces that he's dropping out, Harris eclipses Trump in the polls. Now, obviously, because of the sort of advantage that Republicans have in the Electoral College, the national popular vote isn't everything, and the back of the envelope political arithmetic is that she would likely need to beat him by 3 or 4 points in the popular vote to win the Electoral College. But, all of this to say, right now, Harris she has the energy and the momentum, and Donald Trump has not been able to blunt her rise. This is his first big chance, because there may not be another debate after this.
Oh, I doubt very seriously there will be. Let me ask you a question, because when you were talking about the numbers and all of that, I view the rise of Kamala as basically a breath of fresh air that Democrats are breathing because Biden is no longer on their ballot. I think that this is not how great she is, but thank goodness it's not him, because we still don't really know what she stands for.
So we've seen the vice president flip-flop on another number of issues. When she was running for president herself, she was for mandatory gun buybacks. Now she opposes them.
Right.
She was for decriminalizing border crossings. Now she says she wants a strong border security apparatus there that includes the border wall. She was opposed to fracking. Now she says she won't ban it. The list goes on and on. It even includes paper straws, right? Banning the plastic variety. I kid you not, that was a question that was asked to her at CNN when she was doing a town hall while running for the Democratic nomination.
Well, CNN is always going to ask those questions. They're at the forefront of every American, when we're considering, things like what's happening at our border and our makeup of our country and also all the problems around the world. Plastic straws has got to be one of the top three.
Right at the top of the list. But, we've seen her evolve mostly by press release or by anonymous statements to the press where a Harris aide will tell the New York Times or the Washington Post, sometimes anonymously, that she no longer supports things that she once did. And during that CNN interview with Dana Bash, we saw the vice president, kind of explain some of the evolution on fracking. She said that a ban was no longer necessary because there are other ways to get climate change under control. But for the most part, she's evolved without having to give much of an answer. And I think that this sort of is maybe a way to back into your point there. The policies do not matter as much as the personalities in this election, and the personality that matters most is not Harris. It's Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And what we have seen is the same Democratic machine that pushed Biden out the door, and I don't mean that as a pejorative. Republicans have their own machine as well. But the machine that pushed Biden out the door is now activated for Harris. I think the latest fundraising totals just dropped. The Harris campaign announced that she had raised more than $500 million as a candidate. That's much more than Donald Trump has on hand. And she raised more than $300 million in the month of August alone. That's more money than Donald Trump has on hand. So that machine, it's churning overtime because the goal here is to keep him out of the Oval Office. And, the best thing that Harris has going for her currently is that she is not Joe Biden and that she certainly is not Donald Trump.
Give me your take. I didn't tell you I'd talk about this, but give me your take on now Hunter Biden saying, okay, I'm guilty. On all those tax charges, I'm guilty. My family has paid enough of a price. I did it. Even caught the judge off guard. Is this so that Joe Biden and a possible pardon for his son is not in the minds of voters as they go in? They'll feel freer to vote for the Democrat, Kamala Harris. But see, in my view, here's what I think could happen. This is just me. You and I haven't even talked about this. I think that Biden does not pardon him until Kamala loses the election and he knows it's all at the whim of Donald Trump. If Donald Trump does what he said he would do, there's really no telling what it is that would happen relative to the ins and outs of that whole debate and that whole discussion. I don't know that we would really know exactly all that might happen if that were to take place. But if Kamala wins,
that's the scenario that's most interesting.
Because explain your take on it relative to Hunter and Joe and Kamala. If she becomes president, what's the scenario the way you see it?
So, I think the reason why Hunter Biden changed his plea from not guilty to guilty is exactly what you laid out there. He knew that the DOJ had bundles of evidence. They've been working on this for some time, certainly not as aggressively as some conservatives wanted, but this was a pretty stacked case against him.
Sure.
And the political calculus in his mind, if his father was at the top of the ticket, was that this would be, 5 or 6 weeks ahead of the election, that would be a parallel sideshow that would be distracting. And, that's not something that he wanted to, pursue. But when his father was at the top of the ticket, Biden and the White House, they're on record even telling this to me, that the president has said he will not only not pardon his son, he won't commute his sentence either. And I think the expectation there with Hunter was, I've got to win this thing then. And then, come what may in November, perhaps the president revisits this and makes an argument about how, as a father, it would be irresponsible to, leave his son to the justice system if Donald Trump is in charge.
Yeah, the rest of our family has suffered enough.
Yeah. With Harris, however, I think that, he's more comfortable pleading guilty and then sort of waiting, right? If Trump wins, maybe his father will pardon him. If Harris wins, maybe, she'll pardon him during her first 100 days as a way to turn the page on this chapter. But generally, the top line here is that Hunter Biden knew that this would be a distraction and it would be most unwelcome for Democrats. As far as the different permutations of, his father pardoning him or his father, not pardoning him if he won versus Harris, I don't know how all of that shakes out, and it's speculation. But look, this could have been incredibly explosive. And again, I think that this just demonstrates with Biden off the ticket and with Harris, who is relatively unknown, there's one less liability that Democrats have to deal with.
No, that's exactly right. And I picture Hunter saying, well, at least they're not going to be saying my name for the next 60 days because I'm now off the table relative to anything that matters with regards to the election. But then I look for his name to jump right back on the forefront of the news reports a week after this election, this campaign event is over, after they get past the debate. I think Hunter's right back in the headlines.
Possibly so. And one thing that sort of jumps out to me in all of this is the White House on numerous occasions said that they weren't going to comment about Hunter Biden. They sort of tried to hold this at arm's length. But the president himself said last year during an interview with MSNBC that his son had done nothing wrong. And that is significant because now his son is saying, in fact, yes, I have, and the things that I've done wrong, according to the law, are felonies and misdemeanors.
Yeah.
And they're also, by the way, crimes that a select few can get away with. The tax case here is different than the gun case in that we're talking about large sums of money.
Yep.
Millions of dollars that were not paid back in taxes. But one thing that I can't quite get over is that a lot of the folks who were in this White House and who stood by Biden's statement that his son had done nothing wrong, and then a lot of the people who are in this White House and who said that Biden is as sharp as a tack, they have moved on over to Vice President Harris's campaign. And as of yet, that has not led to a credibility problem for her. And as of yet, she has not been pushed. Ash, during that CNN interview, asked the question, but she didn't push on what Harris knew and when she knew it about the mental acuity of the President of the United States.
Right. Well, she wouldn't even come clean on some things, for example, like the withdrawal from Afghanistan, when she boasted at one point that she was the last person in the room with the president after the decision was made. But then she came out that she seemingly knew nothing about it, and she didn't want that to be hung on her. It's incredible, not just Democrats and not just this Democrat, but it's incredible when politicians go scurrying. They're like cockroaches when the lights come on in the kitchen. They go scurrying for cover wherever they can, and I think that's a lot of what's happened with her. Do you have a take, just you personally, whether or not the potential for the downside of this debate rests more heavily on Donald Trump, or does it rest more heavily on Kamala? I've got to think that with it being an ABC debate, that the questioning should probably prefer Ms. Harris, but there's going to have to be some, meeting of the minds here somewhere.
Yeah, and if you doubt the credibility of George Stephanopoulos, rewind to the 2012 Republican presidential cycle when Mitt Romney had to answer a question that came out of nowhere,
right,
where George Stephanopoulos asked the then former Massachusetts governor if he would ban birth control. It was totally out of left field. It wasn't part of the conversation at the time.
Yeah, it wasn't on anybody's radar.
It wasn't. And so, there are some questions, and I think that, Republicans, they have their gripes against the media. So as Trump prepares for this debate, I can honestly say that he's going in prepared to, joust not just with Harris, but also with the moderators. One thing that is of note, though, is, CNN, they were the gold standard during that last debate. They asked questions. Certainly, I think some of them might have been maybe more liberal than conservative, but they asked questions, and then they let the candidates debate. And it was almost as if Jake Tapper and Dana Bash sort of receded into the lights of that night. They kept the focus on the candidates. And if we see something similar where Donald Trump and Kamala Harris are able to argue amongst each other and have a debate and provide, competing visions for where the country is supposed to go, that's a journalistic success. If, on the other hand, we have a Candy Crowley moment where the moderator steps in and corrects a Republican, then I think a lot of folks on the right are going to be angry.
Yeah, which that debate cost her job. A couple of things going forward, and then I'll let you go. Philip Wegman from Real Clear Politics, they're inside the Beltway as he represents them at the White House. But in this, am I wrong in saying that I think that Kamala maybe has more to lose, or maybe at least more that she can't win if she doesn't really come out of the shell and really come out? I don't think she can do it with just picking up 3 or 4 of the positions that Donald Trump has stated in the past and basically comes out with a policy, yeah, me too.
Yeah, she has the energy right now, and she has the money advantage, but she does not have runaway momentum. So her numbers are on the rise, but there's a possibility that they plateau. And because of the advantages that Trump has in the Electoral College, it's certainly possible that this thing comes down to a 2016 repeat, and she wins the popular vote, but he wins the Electoral College.
Yep.
And bing, bang, boom, he's back in the White House.
Yeah, and then everybody on the left will start screaming again about how our Electoral College is so unfair. A lot of people could save themselves a lot of energy if they just read the Constitution.
Yeah, the rule book, it's all there. But, with Trump, this is the fundamentals of the election haven't changed because the challenges that the country faces, those are the same. But going into this thing, it almost feels as if, Harris doesn't need to win. She just needs to not lose.
Yeah. Whereas
with Donald Trump, it almost feels like he's got to win this thing.
Yeah.
If he has to, change the narrative, he has to change the conversation and really pin the last 4 years on the vice president rather than letting her sort of pick and choose, what from the last 4 years she wants to adopt as her record. So I feel like this is both of these candidates, they're going to be under the bright light, and both of these candidates have a lot to prove. But it almost feels like this is one that Donald Trump has to win, whereas Harris, she could just debate to a draw and still be all right.
Yeah, and that's what scares me about, exactly who's moderating for ABC, how far will they let their left leanings carry them in their questions and their follow-ups, and how much will they try to help bury Donald Trump in the course of the debate. Last thought, because you and I both know, Philip, if the debate choreographers and the people asking the questions want to, they can paint a candidate in a slightly better light or in a slightly worse light than what the reality was. Your thought?
Yeah, they do. I think that one thing that Republicans need to get over is the fact that media is more often than not liberal, right? Like, you can point out media bias, you can complain about it, but if you keep going on, then it just sounds like you're whining. So for Trump, I'm certain that the Trump campaign is going to light up my inbox during this debate, and they're going to complain about what Stephanopoulos asks if it's pretty egregious, and that's fair. But it needs to be a debate about what the country is going to look like if he's in office, not a debate over how unfair the former Clinton White House communications director was to Donald Trump, right? Like, it almost seems as if this is something that, the GOP, they just have to expect that they're going into unfriendly territory.
Sure.
And they, they've got to win. Trump has done that previously, and we'll see if he can do it again.
I look forward very much to talking to you next Saturday, because it'll be the first Saturday after that debate, and it'll really be when we're in spun-up time and we're just racing then toward the November election. So there'll be a lot to consider. Listen, Philip, as always, thank you very, very much. I appreciate everybody that understands that it takes a lot for you to be on our program, and we appreciate you scoring out that time for us. Remember, you can always go to realclearpolitics.com, click on Writers, find Philip Wegman, and you can find his most recent articles listed first, but all of them are there, and you'll get a great take on a lot of what's going on. Philip, for today, as always, my friend, thank you very much.
Best part of my week. Thanks, Pat.
All right, there you go. Philip Wegman from Real Clear Politics. Very much appreciate Phil Wegman again making time for us here on our broadcast, as we do every week. Again, if you'd like to find out more about Philip Wegman and his writings and what he says and does and where he'll be, you can find him at realclearpolitics.com. That's realclearpolitics.com. At the top of the page, click on Writers, and there you'll see his name pop up. And when you click on that, you'll see all of his letters and segments that he has done, and they're all there in order with the newest the newest is up there first, and then if you scroll all the way down, you can see everything he's done for the last few years for Real Clear Politics. Well, we were talking a little bit about the debate and what's coming up. I just wanted to glue in some of that. We've got 3 shortened segments coming up because of our time with Philip, and I just wanted to get him in. As you know, last week we had a little bit of a problem with our equipment, and we were not able to keep the not the one that I recorded with him last week, the one I recorded with him twice last week. It was kind of a nutty thing. But let me go through this again. The September 10th event, which is this Tuesday in Philadelphia, is going to use the same rules and format as the debate that Donald Trump and Joe Biden did back in June. Now, both campaigns had previously agreed to hold the debate on that date, but the agreement appeared to be in jeopardy after Trump suggested he might back out, and Harris' team sought to change the rule on muted microphones. Candidate microphones will be live only for the candidate whose turn it is to speak. And here's what this just kind of cracks me up on all of this. Notwithstanding, this is the campaign manager for Kamala Harris, notwithstanding our concerns, we understand that Donald Trump is a risk to skip the debate altogether, and he has threatened to do so previously if we do not accede to his preferred format. Well, now, listen, that's what they say, but is that what happened? Because the problem is this. They said, we do not want to jeopardize the debate for this reason. We accepted the full set of rules proposed by ABC. So is it Donald Trump, you got to do it my way or the highway? Or is it Donald Trump saying, hey, ABC came out with it. We agreed to do it. Biden agreed to do it when it was Biden and not Kamala. So we're just going to stay with those rules, including the muted microphones. So, they all, okay, fine. We'll do this, we'll do this, we'll do that, we'll do that. So candidate microphones will only be live for the candidate whose turn it is to speak. In my view, that's all this is. I think that benefits Donald Trump. Because Donald Trump, if there's going to be a candidate that's going to go slightly off the rails a little bit, it will be Donald Trump. We know that because he loves a microphone and he loves to do stem-winding speeches and to just get the crowd going. But he stayed in his realm a great deal against Joe Biden, and it didn't hurt him. Look, more powerful than him jumping in on Joe Biden in the last minute of one of his answers that he gave back in June was the president allowed to finish what he was saying, and then Trump started his segment just simply by saying, I don't even know what he just said. Which I thought, that was a powder keg event. That was a big blow in all of that. Trump did say that his approach to the debate is going to depend on how fair he perceives ABC News to be. but he said he kind of wants to feel it out as things go along. Well, that's just, I think Trump just maybe saying just enough to scare people a little bit. It's a 90-minute debate. It's going to be held without an audience in Philadelphia's National Constitution Center at 9 p.m. It's going to be moderated by David Muir and Lindsay Davis of ABC News. I bring up David Muir for the benefit of my good friend and pianist, Malin Houlihan. And Malin, you can watch it tonight. So he'll get that. Look, each candidate will not be allowed to have notes, prompts. They both will stand for the whole debate. They have 2 minutes to answer each question. They've got 2-minute rebuttals with an additional minute for each candidate for follow-up. A clarification, a response, that kind of a thing. So the rules mirror exactly what was on the CNN debate between Trump and Biden on June the 27th. The president's performance in the debate was, widely panned and eventually led him to exiting the race and endorsing Harris in July. I bring up one other thing. The debate in June was on CNN. This one is on ABC. Can we all come together now and say Donald Trump needs to do extra well because he's not on a platform either time that would lend themselves to be friendly to him or to his campaign? ABC, who do you think they're in the box for? I think they're probably in the box for the left, the Democrats, and certainly Kamala Harris. Your thoughts on that? Other things coming up here in just a little bit as we move ahead here on the Pat Miller program. Gretchen Whitmer, she has some things to say about polls up there in her state of Michigan. I think it's going to be interesting to see what the governor of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer, what she has to say. She was on the short list, by the way, for Kamala to pick for her VP running mate, and when she essentially landed on Governor Walz from Minnesota. That all comes up straight ahead. Back before you know it. Glad you're with us here on this Saturday on the Pat Miller program. We're with you on 92.3 FM and 1190 AM. We continue on through hour 2 of the Pat Miller program. Very, very glad you're with us. In the next segment, not politics, not anything. We used to always do this on Saturdays when I had the Pat Miller program on Saturday mornings, the Saturday morning think tank, before we went to the daily program. It's going to be the marching band update. You cannot believe. You say, marching band, really? How political is that? Well, it's a politic all of its own. I will just tell you, I was a band kid all the way up from 68 to 72. Both of my daughters were in the marching band situation. I've had nieces and nephews in marching bands. It's a big deal, especially in Indiana. The 4 biggest states in the country relative to marching bands are Indiana, Ohio, Florida, and Texas. That's not to say other schools, other states don't have great marching bands, but as a whole, from top to bottom, all sizes and varieties, nobody tops the state of Indiana. Let me go back to some things that we brought up a little bit because we were talking about the polls and everything leading up to the debate. Don't forget the debate is Tuesday at 9 o'clock. It'll be covered on CNN. On ABC. It'll be covered on Fox. I believe it'll be covered here on our airwaves, but there'll be a lot of places for you to see and hear it. Somebody spoke in about the polls. Democrat governor of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer, absolutely has rejected the polls this week that show Vice President Kamala Harris with a statistic lead, a stable lead, a sizable lead over Donald Trump by 5 points. She said, it's just not true. It makes me nervous to see any poll that there's a 5-point lead for Kamala Harris in Michigan right now. It's just not true. It's going to be a very close race. I believe we can win it, and I believe we will, but it's going to be very, very close. Why is she so nervous here? What is she afraid of? She was referring to that CNN poll that they came out with. She said, in Michigan right now, we've got Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, and we have 3 other people on the ballot. CNN did not test for that. And that's why we see these polls. She says, I'm telling everyone, don't get comfortable on anything here. You can't sleep on Michigan. Well, she's exactly correct. However, the CNN poll did include 3 other candidates, including Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who you recall pulled out of the race a week and a half ago and through his support for Donald Trump. And he was polling at 4%, but he has dropped out of the race and endorsed Trump. And he's fighting right now to remove his name from the list on the ballot in Michigan. Why? Why? He doesn't want his name there because a vote for him on that ballot in Michigan is not a vote for Trump. He wants his name off the ballot, so when he tells all of his followers, go pull the ballot for Donald Trump and you're pulling the ballot for me. If he stays the way he is, really Kamala has to gain from that and not him. He wants his name off the ballot. In 2016, Hillary Clinton lost to Donald Trump by 11,000 votes. Jill Stein was also on the ballot in Michigan, and she earned more than 11,000 votes. So Jill Stein, who most of you could not even remember, she ended up being probably the decider of what happened in the state of Michigan. Another thing that the governor said, one of the wonderful strengths about Michigan and one of the challenges is that we are the most diverse swing state in the country. Michigan benefited from the auto industry and brought people from the South, from the Middle East. People came from all around the globe for a job on the line at Ford or GM, and it was a guarantee to the middle class where you could take your family, you could even buy a place up north because you were paid a salary and sustain a family and a good quality of life. And then she added, and that's the kind of population growth we had over the years, and that's part of who we are, and we need to realize that's who's here, and we need to make sure it's okay. I do think, she said, that Michigan over my lifetime will take swings, big swings. We've had 12 years of a Republican governor, and then we have term limits. So we had 8 years of a Democrat, then 8 years of a Republican, then 8 years of a Democrat. So it is a state that is notoriously kind of independent. We split our ticket a lot, and that's who we are in Michigan. Now, listen, Trump does have a history, and this is going to be interesting to see when it happens in November. He does have a history of overperforming on Election Day in comparison to the polls for him and the polls against him. In 2020, Real Clear Politics average in Michigan showed Biden beating Trump by more than 4 points, but he ended up winning by less than 3. In 2016, Real Clear Politics had Clinton up by nearly 4 in Michigan against Trump. Trump ended up winning by 0.3. So it was less than a point of what he won, but she was supposed to win it by 4. So that was quite a large difference in what happened there. So that's what's going on. Make sure you tune in on Tuesday evening at 9 o'clock. So from Philadelphia, you can hear the debate between the presidential candidates. When I come back straight ahead, our last segment together on this Saturday, we're going to give you our marching band update. First time we've done it in years, and I can't wait to get on it again. We'll do it right here for you on WOWO 92.3 FM and 1190 AM. As promised, here's our last little segment together here on this Saturday. Very, very glad that you're with us. Thanks so much for making us a part of your life here. You know what I am. I'm an animal where I'm very political. So right versus left, Republican versus Democrat, abortion versus right to life, you name it. And politically, I'm in there somewhere. And most of you, for the history of our time together on our program, you have known where I am. So that's not going to change. But I am going to try, and it'll usually be probably our last segment of the first hour or the last segment of the program in the second hour. During the course of the next 5 or 6 weeks, I'm going to try to keep us all up to date on the marching bands in our area. Marching band is a big deal. Marching band greatly shaped who I am and who I became in my life. And so that's where I'm at on that. So that's a great deal of who I am, and I'm not going to lose that, and I don't want to lose that. So let me do this. Let me go through and talk to you about some of the. Now there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 contests going on in the state of Indiana today. Today is the first day of the marching band march, where all roads lead down to Indianapolis and Lucas Oil for the state championships. But I'm only going to talk about 2 of them, because as per usual, I'm only going to talk about the ones that involve schools from Fort Wayne and the greater Fort Wayne area. If you like this, if you want me to do this, please get a hold of me and let me know. Please let me know, because if it matters to you, it matters to me. Let me know what school your kids go to. If they do really well one week, or if you just want to point out the young person in your life that is part of a marching band, just let me know. write me, Pat Miller, all one word, no dots or dashes, Pat Miller at wowo.com in the subject heading, because I'm now getting about 600 emails a week. So in the segment there at the top, make sure in your memo you write in banned. And when I see that, I'll know the kind of information that we're getting there from you, and we'll try to go after that. So let me start with the contest that's going on this afternoon at Goshen High School, not that far from here, at the Goshen Crimson Invitational. And the first band will take off today at 2:30. Well, giving you the bands that are in our greater area, at 3:45, the Manchester Squire Band, which is the band from Manchester Junior Senior High School. I was down near there just a couple of weeks ago when we were down there for the Peabody activity down there for the Peabody Retirement Center, right across the street from Manchester. Beautiful location. So they're at the Goshen Christmas Invitational today, and if you're near there, you want to go there, you want to see them. Again, they will do their show, Year of the Dragon, and they will do that starting at 3:45. The Whitco Marching Pride will be down there at 4:15, and then the Knox Redskin Brigade at 4:30. I'm going to scroll over some that are not right in our immediate area. The Wawasee Marching Warrior Pride, they will march at 5:30 today. The Fairfield Marching Pride, which is a tremendous band, they'll march at 6:15. The Columbia City Marching Eagles, they'll march at 7:30. The Pride of Plymouth will be there at 7:45. The Concord Marching Minutemen will be at 8:15. The Bishop Dwenger Marching Saints will be there at 8:45 this evening. Tonight at 9, Warsaw. Penn High School, the Marching Kingsmen, they will be there at 9:30. The Carroll Charger Pride, and just a reminder, in 2 weeks, I'll be announcing the Carroll Charger Pride Invitational out at Carroll High School. They march tonight at 9:45, and then the host band, the Goshen Crimson Pride, will be marching to close out the evening together. The other contest, a little closer to us, on the banks of the Wabash, down here in Bluffton, Indiana. Great contest they do every year. The Heritage Marching Patriots take off to the first band at 3:15. The Norwell Marching Knights at 3:30. The Wayne Marching Generals at 4 o'clock. The New Haven Mighty Marching Bulldogs at 4:15. The Adams Central Squadron of Sound. Now, you guys cinch up a little earlier. You pulled it together at the end of last year, and you got yourself to state. Make sure you do that again. So, Adams Central Squadron of Sound. The Garrett Railroader Regiment will be marching at 6:30. Then the Marching Cadets from Concordia Lutheran Marching High School here in Fort Wayne, they will be on at 6:47, followed by the Angola Marching Hornets. The DeKalb Baron Brigade at 7:21. Huntington North Marching Vikes at 7:38. The Leo Roar of the Lions at 7:55. And then we've got the East Noble Marching Knights. Our final two bands in competition will be the Northrop Big Orange Pride at 8:46. Followed by the Homestead Spartan Alliance Band at 9:03, which will be tremendous. Then Bluffton will march in exhibition at 9:20, and then they'll have all of the awards at 9:35. So it is a great day for marching bands. It's a great time to get back out there and see your kids and be proud of who they are. Listen, make sure your kids know you're coming. Make sure they know you're up there. When they come onto the field, just squeal and scream and holler and do everything, not while they're actually performing, okay? Hey, that's it for today. I'm going to wind this up again next week. Next week in the Marching Band Update, I'll let you know how they did, and then who's marching where next week. All that comes up right here on WOWO 92.3 FM and 1190 AM.
Podcasts by Federated Media.